Hello everyone and welcome to my new book review. Here we have The Moon and Serpent Bumper Book of Magic by Alan Moore and Steve Moore. Yes, the same Alan Moore who wrote Watchmen and Viva Vendetta. This must have been well over 30 years in the making, because when Alan Moore turned 40 years old, he announced to the world that he was going to be a magician, and since then he's been working on magic ever since, and finally he's putting all of his ideas on creativity and magic into one book, and this is it. We've been waiting for this, and it's finally here. And just look at this very well presented book, just beautifully done. But this is only the cover. Let's have a look at the inside. I mean, look at this, lovely. This is a comic we have inside, and this is, just look at the artwork here, just there. It's beautifully presented. What you're seeing here, these little comics you're seeing, are basically little brief biographies of the earlier magicians. And in between all of this, we have short stories and practical guides on how to make your own discus, your own wand, and things like that. And what's great about this is that we see an in-depth explanation of what the Kabbalah is and what the symbols mean, and then it goes into detail about the tarot cards. For instance, it also talks about dreams and what they mean and how you can reinterpret them. As soon as you see a dream, write it down, explore your dreams and what they mean. And getting back to the Kabbalah, it talks about what each of these symbols mean, what they represent, the symbolism, the language like Chokmah and Binah, and all these other bits, the Netzach and the Tiperet. It's really beautiful stuff. And it also explains how they are linked to the zodiac signs, like the astrology, for instance. And these are the short stories in between. The blue pages you're seeing here are the things you can do on a rainy day, just practical magic, basically. And here we have the guide on how to use the tarot. Once again, we can see the tarot cards here and how they are linked to the Kabbalah. All of these are carefully explained. What do the cards mean? This is beautifully and perfectly well explained, clearly. And also what each of the part of the Kabbalah represents, like the Chesed and the Darth. In this case, we have Zeus, which is Jupiter. Just one example. What else do we got here? We have beautiful artwork here. All of this in depth and well explained, mostly by Alan Moore himself and also by Steve Moore. But do keep in mind it's a collaboration. I mean, lots of people came together to write this as well. And here we are. Now, there are things that are worth mentioning here. For example, it feels incomplete because when you go to the back pages, and at the back you can sort of make this weird little this weird sort of pyramid building. Let me just show you. Okay, there. You're making this little building here, and then the last few pages you've got these bits and pieces you can cut out, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to ruin this lovely book. You can make that. But as an example, here we have, how the Kabbalah talks about every symbol and what they meant and how they're linked to the gods and things, like Netzach, victory, and and each number represents the Greek gods and things like that. Well, let me give you an example. I mean, number 6 is the sun god, okay? But when you turn over here, that we all know the sun god is, in Greek, is Helios, but here it's Apollo. That's incorrect. It's meant to be Helios. And also the Scandinavian god is meant to be someone else. Freya is is Aphrodite, the goddess of love, which is hence the name we get Friday. So I don't think this is Alan Moore's mistake. I think this is the compiler's mistake. It really bothers me that they can get something like that wrong. And what really bugs me about all this is that There is no bibliography, no references, nothing of the sort. Because I really want to know where Alan Moore and Steve Moore got their ideas from. And, sure, you've got these essays at the back, the postscript and all these explanations. Alan Moore gives his ideas on how they came to be and what we can do. Now that magic has been completely dismantled, solve et coagula, they've been broken down into small pieces, and now we're in the stage of putting everything back together again. But, Alan Moore beautifully explains it, but the problem is there's no bibliography, no other forms of explanations. And another thing that bothers me about this book is that if you look here, we've got the Hebrew names such as Aleph and Malkut and Yesod and Hot, but there is no mention of the Phoenicians, which is a bit weird because that's where Hebrew derived from. It's Phoenician, and that's also where the Kabbalah came from. But don't worry, there is a book that explains this really well. It's called Alphabet by Christine Brydon. I'll put the link to that in the description below. And also, speaking of magicians, while we are on the subject of magicians, such as these, again, it's got beautiful artwork. I mean, this is Hermes or Thoth, and this is Aphrodite, Netzach, and Hot. While we're on the subject of magic, such as magicians, let's talk about these. There is no mention of Elymas, the magician in Cyprus that Saint Barnabas blinded, while Cyprus was a Roman colony. And also, there is no mention of Elias Ashmole, who was an alchemist. So, in a way, it feels kind of incomplete. But regardless, this is still a great book. I mean, there's so much covered here in terms of magic. I mean, in this particular chapter, we've got Edward Kelly, and what else do we have here? We go back one page. Paracelsus. Basically, these are very short biographies of the magicians and how they developed magic and what they did with it and what they wrote about. And as you can see, this is basically a massive history of magic itself, and this is very well done. So this is why I'm very annoyed that there is no bibliography or a list of books that we can refer to. But either way, if you want to understand magic, the Kabbalah, and the tarot cards, this is everything all in one place. This is the reference book. This is something you can refer to again and again. Overall, this is a fantastic book of magic. I recommend everyone could read it. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, it is for adults and not really for children. But if you want to explore and expand your imagination, explore your dreams and see where you can go from there and see how everything is linked, this is the book for you. So I recommend this. So overall, thank you, Alan Moore. This is fantastic. Thank you very much for watching. Take good care of yourselves.